Coach Tony.
Hey, folks, we're back, and we are talking about this kid, Anthony Burruto, who was cut from his high school baseball team because of his inability to field bunts. And I'm oversimplifying that. The fact is the kid's got 2 prosthetic legs, and there's a whole bunch of a poo-poo storm around why this kid got cut. But before we get back to some of these emails, I know we got some more callers here. In fact, we're going to go to Kenny, who's calling in from Franklin Square. Hey, Kenny, you're on Let Them Play.
Good morning, Coach Tony. How are you?
I'm good. How we doing?
All right. I think you took a little way of my thunder what I was going to speak about because I'm pretty much on the same page with you. Boy, you gotta love the heart and determination of this kid. To go out there and compete and not to give up. But at the same level, the parents can't have it both ways. Treat my kid like every other kid. But wait a second. Don't cut my kid. He's got a disability. You can't have it both ways. I think the parents have done an amazing job up to this point, raising such a great kid who hasn't given up. But you can't at the same point go the other way and say, well, he has a slight disability and kids are going to take advantage of it. Can't you just keep him on the team? And you can't get on the coach. Excuse me for getting a little fired up, but you can't get on the coach for saying he's all about winning. Because if he was all about winning and this kid helped him win, he'd be on the team.
If this kid was walking around on a pirate wooden leg and had an eye patch and one arm and he can pitch and win,
he'd be there.
Exactly. I hate to listen, this is not to be insulting to people who have prosthetics. This is not what this is about. This is about a coach who collects a paycheck to win games at the varsity level in Florida, which is a very competitive baseball state. What if this guy did do the right thing according to these, I'm not going to call names. No. It's Sunday. But let's assume he puts the guy on the team. And he even puts him out there. And the kid gets shellacked. Think about that story. You put the kid out there and he gets bombed and is a non-factor on this team. What you've done, Mom and Dad, is you unfairly used some leverage to get your kid who has a disability on a team, and everything you did to get that kid's confidence to where it is now, to achieve what he's achieved, and it is remarkable what he's achieved, you just took 3 steps back. If you play the prosthetics card, for lack of a better term, and this kid goes out and plays on that team and gets knocked around, guess what? He'll never get taken seriously again.
But that's what I'm saying. They're taking away from all he's done by throwing that on the table. If he's good enough, he would be there. There is no doubt in my mind. I don't care if he's playing, maybe in a town league, everybody would be, oh, it's a great story. And I think it's a great story.
It is.
But you tarnish the story by throwing out there like, oh, this kid wasn't given a fair chance. He was given a fair chance.
Hey, John, I tell you, let's forget this whole story, and I tell you there's a high school sophomore in Florida who throws 80 and is pitching for Dr. Phillips High School in Orlando, and he throws 80, and he's excelling, and he's on the JV, and guess what? He has 2 prosthetic legs. Why isn't that a good enough story? I think it's a great story.
You're right. You're absolutely right. But you know what? Because you can't use the word fail with a disability. You can't. As bad as it sounds, you can't. Because they view this as a failure, and that's what I think their biggest problem is.
That's their failure.
It's not a failure. Everybody, what about those other 23 kids who got cut? What are they supposed to do? I wasn't given a fair deal. Why? You don't think that they might resent, hey, that kid might have got an extra at-bat or an extra chance because of his disability. So if you want to treat everybody fairly, then he treated everybody fairly. He made cuts.
Hey, listen, I keep talking about, I talk about myself. Baseball was my thing. I was a very good baseball player. I didn't play varsity as a sophomore. I may have been brought up for a game or 2, but I played JV. That's just what you do. So, John, listen, I appreciate the call, and as always, thanks for the call, and always a pleasure to have. I think we screwed up between John and Ken, but that's okay. I'm going to go to another email before we get back to your calls. We have Pat who writes in and says, Dr. Phillips High School must be someplace. A few months ago, I read that a bunch of football bullies kicked the crap out of a younger, smaller kid. Nothing's done to these morons. When the victim's mom drives onto the field to see why no one was charged with a crime, the school officials have her arrested. Now the baseball coach cuts a kid with such big problems, and again, no one questions it. Where's the superintendent or the principal or vice principal or even the guidance counselor? Hey, nice call there, Pat. You must be from down there, because there was a story indeed about a hazing incident with the football team, and it was certainly not handled appropriately in my position, but at least in my opinion. But let's face it, nobody is perfect. But again, I think you're trying to combine two things here that don't belong together. Why is the baseball? Where's the superintendent? The superintendent and the principal and the powers that be all chimed in on this, and they all said nothing unfair was done. The kid was given his tryout. You're trying to compare football bullies who kicked the snot out of a younger, smaller kid to a kid who just, again, got cut because he's just not up to snuff. He's a sophomore. You know what? I'm not going to beat that statement into the ground any more than I already have. I want to get back to some more of our calls. In fact, we're going to go to our buddy Nucc, who's calling in from Long Island. Hey, Nucc, you're on Let Them Play.
Coach Tony, how you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
I'm great. What do you think of all this?
Furious. Yeah, and the thing that I
well, hold on. Furious why?
Well, from some of these emails that you're getting, let's give, if the coach had like a laundry list or an itinerary on what the responsibility of the players are going to be judged on, it's baseball. That's it. Go read the baseball handbook. Figure it out yourself. Now we got to explain to the parents what the itinerary is on what they're supposed to know when they get on a baseball field, how they're supposed to pitch, should they take a certain pitch count. It's ridiculous. Well, it's just ridiculous. Like I said, I think you're doing a great job with this. It's a tough situation. I understand, because you're dealing, I guess, with the kid being handicapped, but he's trying out for the team. I commend him for that. I commend him for the fact that he could actually pitch. And if he was good enough, I think the coach definitely would have kept him.
Come on, Nucc, let's face this. If the kid was good enough to perform at the varsity level, is there any doubt in your mind, doubt at all in your mind he's going to be on that team?
No doubt about it. And even if he had, again, a little bit of a deficiency to get those bunts, if he could bring it, and he had the ability to do so, that coach would actually, would definitely have kept him. But the fact that you have these parents that are chiming in saying, you got to give the kid a break. You're in high school now. Mm-hmm. Okay, get over yourself. You're in high school. What are we doing now? I mean, this is why these kids, when they do, let's forget about the handicapped kid. This is why some of the kids that try out for these teams, okay, that were never told they can't make it, and when they get cut, they're devastated because they've never faced any sort of challenge, because everything is you get a trophy for standing on the field and watching a game, as opposed to contributing and knowing what you're doing on the field and learning how to play the game.
Hey, I've done the show before.
It's not a participation sport anymore. You're trying out to learn the game, if you will, or you should have learned it by now, and this is what it takes. You got to be good enough to make the team.
Hey, listen,
end of story.
The failure and disappointment is part of the development of any mature adult, and I think, like I said, I don't know enough about it to pound the table when I say this, but you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Burruto, I think you really dropped the ball. I think you had a really neat opportunity to say, how much more respect would you have for these parents if they just said, you know what, guys, if CNN came knocking, guess what, CNN, take Larry King out of retirement to do this story. My kid tried out for varsity. He just wasn't good enough to make it. He's a sophomore. Guess what? He's going to play varsity next year, and he'll be there. He didn't get cut. He's playing JV where most sophomores play. And as a parent, instead of saying, because he has to, come on.
And I can see also, and if it was like a Little League team, for instance, that's a totally different story.
Well, they made accommodations for him in Little League.
This is competitive high school.
They already made accommodations.
And again, that's why you have tryouts. That's why they have tryouts. Not because, let's give the list of what you're supposed to do. No.
By the way, tell me what you think of this. And no one talked about this one. I think that the Little League dropped the ball. Because, you know what? Once the kid showed that he could play, then you got to just put the no bunt rule in place when some low-life piece of garbage bunts 20 times on him in a game.
Yeah,
don't have this built-in boo-hoo, I got no legs garbage. Because you know what? And I didn't mean that to sound the way that it sounded. But the idea is, listen, you look at the kid, and I've looked at him on YouTube. I studied this kid. He has no legs. You can't change. That's what it is, okay? And what he's done is nothing short of remarkable. But don't impose this issue and make it a disability.
Right, and I think the other thing too that's big is there were 23 other kids. If he was the last one cut, okay, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Out of just decency, let's say. But obviously, it's a competitive school. This guy cut 23 other kids. You know, so there was a huge opportunity for everybody that's involved. And that's it. And like you said, he's going to play JV. And if you don't play JV, shame on you.
And Nucc, here's the other thing. This coach, in my opinion, does a ridiculous disservice to this kid if he takes him, because guess what?
Right.
If he's if he's nothing more than a poster child for prosthetic limbs, then you give him a spot on the team. If you think the kid can develop, then guess what? Would you rather have him not throw an inning the entire season, or would you rather have him get some work? It's the equivalent of taking a younger pitcher and having him in the minor leagues. If you're not in the 5-man rotation for the New York Yankees, they don't let you sit in the dugout for a year. You go down to AAA, you get your work, and you develop. That's what this kid's going to do. These idiot parents, and now I'm getting pissed, these idiot parents down in Florida who are looking at this and trying to make something that it's not, they don't realize that having this kid on the team would be a hindrance to his development as a person and as a baseball player. They missed the point completely. And so did CNN, and so did the Orlando Sun. By the way, the guy who wrote the article for the Orlando Sun, I just found this out, the kid's uncle. The kid's uncle. Are you kidding me? Uncle Bozo, take your typewriter, put it in the closet, because you lost all your objectivity. And if you're listening, which you're not, but that's okay. I'm not digging it, and I certainly don't respect it. Nucc, great call. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Wow. Okay. So we are really we're winding down here, and you know what? I think we can get to another one or two here. We're gonna go to let's see. Bud writes in and says, I like this one because he starts out kind of cool. He says, "Okay, I'm old and fat, but I've lived through a lot. Listen to the logic for a moment. I applaud the young man for all the determination and dedication he puts forth. I wish for all kids to learn. Now let's put it in perspective. Are legs in play as a player? Yes. If all pitchers only pitched from the waist up, then this kid has the same equipment as everybody else. Are legs a determining factor in pitching? Yes. Therefore, Anthony has a distinct disadvantage due to no feeling in that portion of the leg, along with a distinct disability due to no feeling in that part of the leg." Right, he's kind of repeating himself. But now he says, "Anthony, keep pushing the envelope. But when you get a paper cut, don't let it prevent you from pushing the envelope." That's a great line. Maybe it's cliched. I've never heard that one before. If you get a paper cut, don't let it prevent you from pushing the envelope. Self-satisfaction is what's important, and the trip to get there. Guys, a lot more emails. I just can't get to them because another quick hour just went by. For those of you on vacation, listen, hope you're enjoying your week off. Like I said, come see me at Catamount next week for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Hey, guys, thanks for another great week. I appreciate the calls. I appreciate the emails. Just keep them coming. We'll see you next week, folks, on Let Them Play. Take it easy.
This is Westchester's Soft Favorites, AM 1230 WFAS, White Plains, Westchester.